Hey guys, welcome back to Pierre Haché Music. Today I'm going to give you my top 10 practice tips for practicing guitar, ukulele, drums, whatever instrument you play. These should apply. Some of them might be a little more guitar or ukulele specific, but they're really general tips. I've been teaching music for over 20 years, believe it or not. I started teaching guitar at the age of 17, 18 out of my parents' basement. I started playing guitar when I was 7, and I grew up playing guitar. So I started teaching quite young, and then later on I picked up the ukulele and started teaching that. And I also studied jazz drums in university, and I love teaching drums as well. And these are tips that I would give my students. It's a bit of a long one. Grab a glass of water, grab a coffee. I hope you enjoy this. Maybe take some notes. And if you apply just a few of these tips in your personal practice, I'm quite confident that they will help you out on your musical journey, that they'll help you improve and have more fun. So guys, be sure to stay tuned. I'm going to dive right in here, but if you just want to take a quick second to give that thumbs up a musical tap, I'd really appreciate it, and consider subscribing for tons more beginner ukulele, guitar, and drum videos. So my first tip is what I suggest to all my students, and I try to apply for myself, is when you sit down to practice, to tell yourself you're only going to practice for 2 minutes. Think it's a short amount of time, just get started. So quite often there's some friction right before we dive in. We think, oh, it's going to be long, oh, I'm tired, I don't feel like it. Just starting, just doing it for 2 minutes often breaks the ice, and you'll find yourself practicing a little longer for 10, 20 minutes, getting into it, enjoying yourself. So start light, start with a short amount of time, and you might be surprised what you accomplish. My second tip for today is to have a plan. When you sit down to practice, I'm sure many of you are just maybe picking out your favorite song or looking up a tab online and diving in and giving it a try. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and you want to, work on things you enjoy and just get in there and play, kind of like my first tip suggests. But if you have a bit of a structure, a bit of a plan to your playing, you can be much more productive in the long run and work on a variety of things, work on some foundational elements in there, and it'll really help you improve. For example, a very basic plan could be something like work on scales for 5-10 minutes, then work on a book. For example, it could be one of my books. One of my best ukulele methods is Ukulele for Beginners and Beyond, and I'll link to it down below, but you could be maybe working on a specific page in there, for example, and then working on a song or two that you love. And when you have this kind of structure, it not only helps you progress, but it helps you have longer, more thorough, productive practice sessions because you're doing a bit of this, a bit of that, and a bit of that. So your attention span isn't as taxed if you're doing just one thing for 30 minutes, right? Maybe, like I said, scales for 5, then work in a book for 10 or 15 minutes, and then play a couple songs, work on some songs or some specific chord transition challenges that you have, that kind of a thing. And if you plan this out, it can really help you have productive practice sessions. It could be even more detailed. Now, you could write out things like working on a C major scale as triplets at 100 BPM with a metronome, right? And then working on page 34 and 41 in Ukulele for Beginners and Beyond. And then you could say working on the chorus to this song or that song, or working on my F to B flat transition. So you can get very specific with your plan, and it can be kind of motivating to keep track of this, note where you're at, and then the next time progress. Go to the next page in the book, or go up 10 BPM in your metronome marking, for example. Maybe work on the B flat with a different strumming pattern. You get the idea. My third tip for today is to work on music you love. You want to make sure that at least a good portion of your practice is music that you quite enjoy listening to, that buzzes you, that kind of brings you to life. Those songs that you just can't help but bob your head, that you're into. A lot of these we can play, and sometimes we think, oh, it's too hard, I can't get there. There's quite often easier ways to play a song, simplified versions. For example, on ukulele, maybe a song has some hard chords, but you can play it in a different key. And quite often if you look online, search online for easier versions of songs, or ukulele easy version, or maybe a certain song in the key of C or in the key of F, it might be easier to play on ukulele. So you'll find different chord progressions for different songs, and you can pick the one that suits you best. Also, that might fit your vocal range a little better. But make sure some of your practice is on things that you really enjoy. It'll just inspire you to practice. You'll want to get in there and do it. And when it's something you know well by ear already, it makes it that much easier to learn to play it because it's already in you, and it's just kind of going through the motions to get it to come out, so to speak. My next tip is an important one. When we're practicing new things, challenging things, and this is hard to do, it takes some practice to get good at, playing slowly. So even with a scale, if I'm playing a C major scale, here, for example, if I play a C major scale, I could just go, okay, but if I want to work on my sound, on my time, having a nice steady rhythm, I want to play it slowly. Long notes. Think long, 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 long. Okay, each one, listen to it. Let it ring. Let it be musical and full. I could try it slowly with a metronome at like 40 or 50 BPM. That's challenging to do. Try that out. Or I could say and between each note. And, okay? So saying and is a nice way to add some rhythm, some vocalization, and keep it steady and slow. And then you can apply this to anything. If you're working on a chord transition, for example, F to B flat, well, I can go F and B flat and, okay? So adding a bit of vocalization, some out loud counting, I could count 1, 2, 3, 4 as well, helps you be steady and helps you keep things slow. Listen to yourself while you play and catch yourself if you're speeding up. We tend to speed up when we practice stuff, but you develop this awareness, this strong sense of time, just like you have an ear for pitch that you can develop, right? If you're pitchy, oh, I'm a little out of tune, or oh, I'm not quite singing the right note, we notice, we catch ourselves. But the ear develops also in the sense of rhythm, and you get better and better at not speeding up and practicing things slow and steady. This also allows you to make the correct movements and to develop good habits in terms of your technique and transitions. To notice details in both hands. Oh yeah, I gotta make sure to press with the tips of my fingers, press close to the frets, keep my thumb low in the back. All these technique things that really help. Slowing down gives you time to kind of keep them in check and play with good technique. My next tip for today is a great one. You want to have a designated area where you practice. You really want to have a spot in your home, the same location in your house that's accessible and comfortable, well lit, somewhere where you can sit up straight and have a good productive practice session. You might want to look into getting stands for your instruments, whether it's a wall mount like I have here, or just one of those freestanding stands for your ukulele or guitar or violin or whatever it is. That makes your instruments very accessible. You want to be able to see it and that there's as little friction as possible. Don't keep it tucked away in the case. You want to be able to grab your instrument, sit down and play right away. Another tip that really helps is when you're practicing anything challenging, you want to isolate the challenging passages and work on one isolated thing at a time. For example, it could be just one chord transition. Maybe it's, from a G to a B minor, and you're having trouble getting there. Work on just that slowly for a couple of minutes. If it's a song, something you're working on in a book, you work on one measure, the hardest measure of the song. Isolate that and repeat it slowly. Very small pieces of music. It could be the first line of a chorus, and you want to do this slowly and mindfully. Zoom in and do, one thing at a time really well, and don't be afraid to repeat it 10, 20 times. That's productive practice. I guarantee the next day when you come back to it, it'll be a little bit better, at least 1%. And then you keep doing that, and eventually you can fit it into the rest, that challenging passage, and it will help you be able to play through something without slowing down or hesitating. This next tip might be a little hard for some of you to apply because I know we don't all have complete freedom in our schedules, but ideally you want to practice at the time of day where you have the most focus, where you're the most alert. Now, I know some of you have to work, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I'm blessed that a lot of the work I do is music. I'm teaching, I'm practicing, I'm making videos like this. But you want to do this practice when you're feeling awake. Okay, maybe that's in the morning, 10, 11 a.m. Maybe that's in the evening for you, 8 or 9 p.m. Now, you do the best you can, right? I get it. If you have a 9 to 5, you want to find the time that works. It might be before work where you squeeze in a little 20-minute practice session with your morning coffee, for example. Or maybe once, the kids are fed, you let them have a bit of screen time and settle down for 20 minutes of practice then. But you want to have a moment where you're at the very least able to kind of focus and get in the zone for a good 20-30 minutes and think about what time of day is optimal. When's the best time for you to do that? Okay, this tip really, really helps. I think everyone should do it, is get a music stand. Okay, I got one right here with, oh, look at that, some awesome strumming patterns. By the way, these strumming patterns, these strumming patterns and chord progressions are from Ukulele for Beginners and Beyond. And I have play-along videos that are completely free on my YouTube channel that add tons of value to this book. So feel free to check out the link down below and grab your copy and follow along with me here on YouTube. But a music stand is invaluable for having your music at eye level, having good posture, having your music out and on the ready and ready to practice. I'll link to a good one down below. It's an affiliate link. It would help me out. I'll get a couple bucks if you order a music stand like this. But they're really, really helpful, and I think an essential piece of equipment to add to your practice setup at home. Okay, we're getting there, guys. I think this is tip number 8. You want to practice in new ways. I'm going to be releasing a video soon that's 5 often overlooked practice strategies for ukulele or guitar. And these are specific technical ways of practicing that I'm sure many of you don't do. So stay tuned for that video. Consider subscribing, click the bell icon to be notified when it comes out. But you want to practice in new, different ways. So don't just, again, look up a tab and try a song. That's great. That's one thing to do. But there are many ways to practice music, so be sure to stay tuned for that video. By the way, guys, if you find these tips helpful, I also recently uploaded a video with 2 game-changing practice tips that I didn't mention here that you really want to keep in mind as well. So I'll link to that one down below in the description and in the pinned comment. That's 2 more bonus tips that are game-changing and honestly maybe the top 2 out of this entire list. So be sure to check those out after this one. Okay, my last tip is a doozy. I think it's an important one. Maybe I saved the best for last. I don't know. You let me know which of these tips is your favorite. Comment down below. I'd really appreciate it. And again, if you have any other tips to share, please let us know. But this last practice tip is to dive in and work on what scares you. What's that one thing that you're kind of shying away from? What's the thing that gives you the most friction, or that, okay, whether it's bar chords, working with a metronome, maybe you're not used to playing with a pick. I don't know. Is there one specific thing you're kind of avoiding? Maybe you've been thinking about getting into finger picking, but you're not sure where to start. Dive in. Maybe there's one song that you'd love to play, but oh no, I'm not ready for it yet. Give it a try. The thing that scares you, the thing you're the most reluctant to play, is probably the thing you're going to get the most juice out of, okay? Now, it's important to do it slowly, step by step. Don't get overwhelmed, okay? If you're just starting out at guitar, don't try to play, these complex classical pieces right away. Yes, we want to progress step by step, but also be aware of what you're shying away from and give it a try, okay? Be friendly with yourself, be forgiving, go slow, but lean into what scares you. Lean into your challenges. Okay, guys, I hope you found this helpful. Again, smash the thumbs up, or a musical tap would be nice too. Really, really appreciate it. Subscribe. Tons more beginner ukulele, guitar, and drum videos on the way. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.